Complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Raj Yoga, Chapter 2, The First Steps, Part 2. This world has a good many of these demonic nature. There are some gods too. If one proposes to teach any science to increase the power of sense enjoyment, one finds multitudes ready for it. If one undertakes to show the supreme goal, one finds few to listen to him. Very few have the power to grasp the higher, fewer still the patience to attain it. But there are a few also who know that even if the body can be made to live for 1,000 years, the result in the end will be the same. When the forces that hold it together go away, the body must fall. No man was ever born who could stop this body one moment from changing. Body is the name of a series of changes. As in a river, the masses of water are changing before you every moment, and new masses are coming, yet taking similar form. So it is with this body. Yet the body must be kept strong and healthy. It is the best instrument we have. This human body is the greatest body in the universe, and a human being the greatest being. Man is higher than all animals, than all angels. None is greater than man. Even the Devas, who will have to come down again and to attain salvation through a human body. Man alone attains to perfection, not even the Devas. According to the Jews and Mohammedans, God created man after creating the angels and everything else. And after creating man, he asked the angels to come and salute him. And all did so except Iblis. So God cursed him and he became Satan. Behind this allegory is the great truth that this human birth is the greatest birth we can have. The lower creation, the animal, is dull and manufactured mostly out of tamas. Animals cannot have any high thoughts, nor can the angels or devas attain to direct freedom without human birth. In human society, in the same way, too much wealth or too much poverty is a great impediment to the higher development of the soul. It is from the middle classes that the great ones of the world come. Here, the forces are very easily adjusted and balanced. Returning to our subject, we come next to pranayam, controlling the breathing. What has that got to do with concentrating the powers of the mind? Breath is like the flywheel of this machine, the body. In a big engine, you will find the flywheel first moving, and that motion is conveyed to the finer and finer machinery until the most delicate and finest machinery in the machine is in motion. The breath is that flywheel, supplying and regulating the motive power to everything in this body. There was once a minister to a great king. He fell into disgrace. The king, as a punishment, ordered him to be shut up in the top of a very high tower. This was done, and the minister was left there to perish. He had a faithful wife, however, who came to the tower at night and called out to her husband at the top to know what she could do to help him. He told her to return to the tower the following night and bring with her a long rope, some stout twine, packed thread, silken thread, a beetle, and a little honey. Wondering much, the good wife obeyed her husband and brought him the desired articles. The husband directed her to attach the silken thread firmly to the beetle, then to smear its horns with a drop of honey, and to set it free on the wall of the tower with its head pointing upwards. She obeyed all these instructions and the beetle started on its long journey. Smelling the honey ahead of it, it slowly crept onwards in the hope of reaching the honey, until at last it reached the top of the tower, when the minister grasped the beetle and got possession of the silken thread. He then told his wife to tie the other end to the pack thread, and after he had drawn up the pack thread, he repeated the process with the stout twine and lastly with the rope. Then the rest was easy. The minister descended from the tower by means of the rope and made his escape. In this body of ours, the breath motion is the silken thread. By laying hold of and learning to control it, we grasp the pack thread of the nerve currents, and from these the stout twine of our thoughts, and lastly the rope of prana controlling which we reach freedom. We do not know anything about our own bodies, we cannot know. At best, we can take a dead body and cut it into pieces, and there are some who can even take a live animal and cut it in pieces in order to see what is inside the body. Still, that has nothing to do with our own bodies. We know very little about them. Why do we not? Because our attention is not discriminating enough to catch the very fine movements that are going on within. We can know of them only when the mind becomes more subtle and enters, as it were, deeper into the body. To get the subtle perception, we have to begin with the grosser perceptions. We have to get hold of that which is setting the whole engine in motion, that is the prana, the most obvious manifestation of which is the breath. Then, along with the breath, we shall slowly enter the body, which will enable us to find out about the subtle forces, the nerve currents that are moving all over the body. As soon as we perceive and learn to feel them, we shall begin to get control over them and over the body. The mind is also set in motion by these different nerve currents. So at last we shall reach the state of perfect control over the body and the mind, making both our servants. Knowledge is power. We have to get this power. So we must begin at the beginning with pranayam, restraining the prana. This pranayam is a long subject and will take several lessons to illustrate it thoroughly. We shall take it part by part. We shall gradually see the reasons for each exercise and what forces in the body are set in motion. All these things will come to us, but it requires constant practice, and the proof will come by practice. No amount of reasoning which I can give you will be proof to you until you have demonstrated it for yourselves. As soon as you begin to feel these currents in motion all over you, doubts will vanish, but it requires hard practice every day. You must practice at least twice every day, and at best times are towards the morning and the evening. When night passes into day and day into night, a state of relative calmness ensues. The early morning and the early evening are the two periods of calmness. Your body will have a like tendency to become calm at those times. We should take advantage of that natural condition and begin then to practice. Make it a rule not to eat until you have practiced. If you do this, the sheer force of hunger will break your laziness. In India, they teach children never to eat until they have practiced or worshipped, and it becomes natural to them after a time. A boy will not feel hungry until he has bathed and practiced. Those of you who can afford it will do better to have a room for this practice only. Do not sleep in that room. It must be kept holy. You must not enter the room until you have bathed and are perfectly clean in body and mind. Place flowers in that room always, They are the best surrounding for a yogi. Also, pictures that are pleasing. Burn incense morning and evening. Have no quarreling, nor anger, nor unholy thought in that room. Only allow those persons to enter it who are of the same thought as you. Then, gradually there will be an atmosphere of holiness in the room, so that you will, when you are miserable, sorrowful, doubtful, or your mind is disturbed, the very fact of entering that room will make you calm. This was the idea of the temple and the church, and in some temples and churches you will find it even now. But in the majority of them, the very idea has been lost. The idea is that by keeping holy vibrations there, the place becomes and remains illumined. Those who cannot afford to have a room set apart can practice anywhere they like. Sit in a straight posture, and the first thing to do is to send a current of holy thought to all creation. Mentally repeat, let all beings be happy. Let all beings be peaceful. Let all beings be blissful. So do to the east, south, north and west. The more you do that, the better you will feel yourself. You will find at last that the easiest way to make ourselves healthy is to see that others are healthy. And the easiest way to make ourselves happy is to see that others are happy. After doing that, those who believe in God should pray not for money, not for health, nor for heaven. Pray for knowledge and light. Every other prayer is selfish. Then the next thing to do is to think of your own body and see that it is strong and healthy. It is the best instrument you have. Think of it as being strong and adamant, and that with the help of this body you will cross the ocean of life. Freedom is never to be reached by the weak. Throw away all the weakness. Tell yourself that your body is strong. Tell your mind that it is strong, and have unbounded faith and hope in yourself.